Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today on Social Bites. We're interviewing Kendra Kinnison of Neovia Solutions. She's a CPA, entrepreneur, and social media consultant. Neovia Solutions specializes in using Forrester Research's POST method for creating social media strategy for local businesses. Good morning, Kendra. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Well, let's get started. I'm really excited about Neovia Solutions, and one of the first questions I really wanted to ask you is, how did the idea and how was it conceptualized and fostered, and what did you do to make it a reality?
Well, going back a couple of years, my business partner Holly Hoffman worked for the Caller Times. Had really been an early adopter of social media. I think she was one of the first maybe 10 people in Corpus Christi to have a Twitter account. Founded Social Media Club, and I met her through that organization. And I had already been doing, I'm a CPA by background, had already been doing a lot of consulting services, and it sort of made sense for me to help her found the company and get rolling.
Cool. Now, what do you think is the biggest mistake that businesses are making in the social networking space, and how does Neovia Solutions address those issues?
Well, I don't know about the biggest mistake, but probably the most common one is that they run straight to the tools without looking at the strategy. In other words, they see that another business has a Twitter account, so they're going to run and go do that. Or they see that another business is using a Foursquare special, so they're going to run and do that. Or their brother-in-law can make a Facebook page, so they're going to run and do that, without really thinking about the strategy. In other words, what is their marketing funnel? What is it? How do people convert into customers? How does their existing marketing and advertising and lead generation and lead conversion work? And where does social media fit in that piece? And so we really work to get social media, or to get businesses to slow down, not focus so much on the tools. We'll get to that, but focus on the strategy. What is it that how can social media contribute to what they're already doing in their business? It should really fold in pretty seamlessly.
Now, are there some strategies that are pretty general across all businesses and all industries?
Well, we use a framework developed by Forrester Media. It was published in the book called Groundswell, and it's called the POST. It's people, objectives, strategies, and tactics. And so you identify who your audience is. That's the P. Who do you want to reach? The O, your objectives. What is it that you want them to do? Then the strategy, then the tactics. So that framework does apply pretty much across any business. Obviously, the people, each of those could be different for every business, but conceptually, the questions that you ask are fundamentally the same.
It's great stuff. Great stuff. Now, one of my concerns is, there's several studies indicating that businesses lose productivity from their employees, allowing them to use the social networks. How can a business harness the power of their employees' social networking assets, all the while taking control of productivity?
Well, I think you've kind of got two separate issues there. And we'll do the first half, which is how can they engage their employees in their marketing. And a couple of ways they can do that. One, having the strategy itself helps you communicate to your employees what exactly it is you're trying to do beyond, I have a Facebook page, go like it, that kind of a thing. So having the strategy in the first place helps. You can have a social media policy for your company that helps explain what to do. For example, if your employee publicly says, I work for ABC company and they're awesome, and somebody posts something negative, well, you really need to educate your employees so that they understand how to handle that, that sort of a scenario, because you don't always want them deleting it. You don't always want them getting in flame wars, with someone. So having that strategy in place and taking the time to educate your employees definitely makes a difference. And when we've seen clients do that, it's like flipping on the light switch. Instead of just having one person advocating for their company, now they've got, exponentially more.
Right.
Okay, back to the productivity question. I don't think social media is any different than playing solitaire or reading People magazine or any of those sorts of things. So if you're not, if you don't have a positive environment where your folks are challenged and doing work that they enjoy, you're going to have a problem with distractions. Whatever those distractions might be, sure, social media can be one of those, but I think you have a bigger issue on your hands than just, are they using Facebook?
Great concepts, great ideas. Thank you for that. Now, is social media important to every business? What would you tell the business owner that feels their market demographic doesn't use or doesn't get social media? For example, a doctor's office that has a 90% demographic over age 65.
Well, I think the answer is everyone's using it. In fact, some of the fastest growing segments are what we would consider the older segments of the population, women in particular. And I don't remember the exact statistic, but women over 55 are heavy users of social media and Facebook. It's how they're keeping track of their families.
Yeah. How about lower income?
We're seeing them still on MySpace,
Okay.
frankly. We have a client that has a different target demographic, and when we did the analysis, they're there. They're just participating in different spaces.
Okay.
In fact, MySpace was still heavily used in our local area among younger males.
Wow.
that had, I guess, what we would consider lower income. So I think the answer is they're there. You just have to find them, and you have to know what it is you want them to do.
So it goes
as
back
well.
to strategy.
Yes, absolutely.
If you have one message about social networking for the average business person, what would that message be?
Well, a few things. Whereas traditional advertising costs you money, social media costs you much less money but a lot more time. So you can't just throw up a design for a billboard and sort of be done with it. It's a different kind of investment, and I think it reflects a broader change in our economy. If you read Gary Vaynerchuk's The Thank You Economy, and from the title you really don't get the message, but what he's saying is we're going back to relationships. We're going back to our grandparents' days where we did business with people because we had a relationship with them. And social media is just another way of facilitating those relationships. So it's a very important component. It's not going to mask if your business really doesn't care. It's gonna expose that. But it can be a great opportunity for the business owner that really does care but doesn't have a huge advertising budget. It can be their best friend.
Great. Now tell us about your mission and your vision. Where do you see Neovia Solutions in the long term, over 5-10 years?
Holly and I have this conversation regularly, and I think we try to balance two different sort of aspects. And one is, where does the market lead us? In other words, what are our clients asking us to do for them? And then the second part is, how do we lead our business community with the knowledge that we have? In other words, just because somebody's asking for a black car doesn't really mean a black car is exactly what they need. So it's a delicate balance of letting the market tell us what they want and letting us try to educate them on maybe the best way to use the tools. So we plan to be a lot more active in what we call the digital business sector, which is really leveraging technology inside your business, not just externally. So we're going to focus more on that. And we're getting back to our roots, which were conferences, education, products, that sort of thing, not just consulting services.
Cool. Now, what do you think your biggest challenges over the same term are going to be?
Well, a few different things. We have a challenge in training our next generation of employees, because there's everybody knows how to do this enough to be dangerous, but you really have to break a lot of those bad habits to really do it in a strategic way. And so we've got two really brilliant young ladies that work with us now that we're really investing a lot of time and energy in to be the next generation of Neovia. So that is a challenge, but a fun one. And the other is to educate the community and to educate our client base, on how best to use sort of these tools and resources that are available.
Right. Now, I always like to ask people who have experience in starting businesses and running businesses if they see anything on the horizon for a new young entrepreneur as far as opportunity goes here in the Coastal Bend about starting a business here.
I think Corpus Christi is a fabulous place to start a business. I can't give you an exact number, but I'm on 6 or 8. at least. And so obviously I'm a pretty passionate advocate of that. I don't really believe in many of the myths about, how horrible things are here. I think there are a lot of us that could choose to live anywhere, and we wake up every day and choose to be here for a reason, and don't regret that for a second. I think the sort of the bubble is a tremendous advantage for a young entrepreneur, because you're going to be allowed to grow kind of without being smacked around like you would in an Austin or a Dallas or a Houston. So you're going to be able to start a business and get your sea legs underneath you, and get some initial clients in the door before the company that started 2 years ago comes and specs you around a little bit. So I think it's a fabulous environment. This Coastal Bend Innovation Center that we're in, I think, is a tremendous resource. There's just a lot of creative energy and enthusiasm, and so I think the more entrepreneurs can surround themselves with people that are trying to build businesses, whether they're the same or different.
Yes. I can really see where an environment that really promotes creativity can be really conducive to the entrepreneur. Taking the conversation on a more personal level, can you tell us some of your professional goals in the short and long term?
That's an interesting question. I'm involved in a lot of different business projects, and so I have goals for each of those. But really, I think the biggest goal is to continue to grow and to do that in a healthy way. I definitely have workaholic tendencies, and so I made a decision a couple of years ago to really try hard to not let that dominate my life. And so I try to stay healthy spiritually and physically, and spend time with my family, and still pursue the business projects that I have. Kind of an interesting one. I spoke Spanish fluently about 15 years ago, and so I'm working this year to relearn that. That's one of my goals. So I want to do an immersion trip sometime in the next couple of years. And actually, some of our employees are reteaching me via Twitter, so it's kind of fun. We tweet back and forth in Spanish, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
But just to continually grow. I know that sounds corny, but I don't really have any specifics that don't relate to one of my projects.
Cool. Now, in terms of media, what do you listen to, read, or view on a regular basis for ideas, insight, and inspiration?
I read a ton. I'll tell you that I don't really consume the news in any capacity, other than I try to be in conversations with people. So if obviously they tell me something major is going on, then I'll go get the information. I don't really watch much television, other than a little bit of NCIS, which is kind of a family tradition. I do read a lot, probably 2 or 3 books a week. Lots of magazines, and then lots of blog posts.
Anything in particular that you would like to share?
Sure. I'm a big fan of John Maxwell, so I've almost always got a Maxwell book going. I've almost always got kind of a fitness sort of a book going. I like Gary Vaynerchuk and where his thoughts are. There's a friend, Chris Guillebeau, Art of Nonconformity. That's a blog and a book. Tim Ferriss. Don't always agree with him all the time, but I think there's a lot of usefulness to what he says. Success Magazine, Inc. Magazine.
Yeah.
Really a lot of different. Just try to read a wide variety of things, and really stretch out and pick up things that I hadn't seen before. I recently started reading a gentleman named Charlie Gilkey out of the Northwest. That's really interesting. So I sort of filter through, every 2 or 3 months.
Cool. Thanks. Now, as far as your personal passions, what do you love to do in your free time?
I like to read. I like to run. I like to build businesses. At the end of the day, I think that's what I was kind of born to do. So I do like that. I love to travel. So my family, we try to hit the road as often as we can. I like to be outside. Just about anything outdoors, I'm a fan of.
That's great. Kendra, thank you for your time. It's been an honor and a privilege. I really appreciate it, and I wish you guys the best in everything that you do.
Absolutely. It's been fun.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. You've been listening to Kendra Kinnison with Neovia Solutions, digital innovations for business. You can reach them at www.neoviasolutions.com. This episode of Social Bites Business Edition brought to you by the Bada Bling Room at OTB, bringing the bling with rhinestone, shirts, flip-flops, belts, and jewelry. Camille's Ice Cream, Dunk, Dress, Devour. Hilda Lamas, a soulful blend of blues, rock, and R&B. Eternal Flame Memorials, keeping the memory of your loved one burning bright. Neovia Solutions, digital innovations for business. Outside the Box, a marketing and promotional specialty company. Products, apparel, and graphic design for your business or organization. Precise Bookkeeping Services. When you expect more, think Precise. Santa Fe Healthcare, home health services for the Coastal Blend, keeping families together. Trevino & Sons Tree Service. Let us take care of your tree and lawn needs so you can relax. And a special thanks to associate producer Imagine Support Services, providing training, advocacy, and support for your loved one with special needs. Visit them at www.imaginesupports.com or call 361-851-0311 or toll free 1-877-851-0311. For advertising and program opportunities, call 361-232-5204. Visit us at www.socialbitescc.com or email sales@socialbitescc.com. I'm David Flotis. This has been Social Bites Business Edition, Corpus Christi's cutting-edge audio magazine. I invite you to like us on Facebook, forward our text message, and please press that share button. Remember, you are the network.